Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
So to leave off where we left off last time, I want to get into, we talked about gimmicks, and gimmicks are kind of easy to pick apart and make fun of and talk about how wrestling, because everybody says it. I just watched, I might want to pull that up with the Bill Maher and Roddy Piper discussion about wrestling's fake. And he fucking got into it with them when Sting was on there and Bobby the Brain Heenan and some girl I didn't even know from WCW. But
Medusa, I believe, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Right,
Medusa was on there.
And when you think about that, it's like everybody's always talked about wrestling's fake. You know, it's not fucking fake. You know, the fake is the storyline. The fake is the acting. Their stuntmen. They're doing like a movie scene for you in front of live. And it's a live audience, so it's not fucking fake what the shit they're doing. But it's just scripted. So. Yeah. Of course, anything else, you know, I mean, you say yourself, sports are probably scripted. Boxing might be scripted. Some shit sometimes to get viewers, which is where the money's at, and to get people to buy in, like the Mike Tyson bullshit with the Jake Paul, it's all fucking scripted. And sometimes it's just the way it is, you know, sometimes it's just what's going to make money. And so the one thing I wanted to discuss is, so when you got into wrestling, how old were you when you first watched a wrestling match, and what was like an influence for you? Like what made you buy in? Because you're obviously older now, and you still, you and our buddy the Ramrock still watch wrestling religiously. You still watch the storyline, even though nowadays, you know, it's not real, as far as like, you know, they're not really fucking out in the streets having these fights, but you still watch it because you enjoy the story. So when you first started, what was your first wrestling match you can recall, or you watched on TV that brought you into this world? Like what made you suck in to say, I love this shit?
I think for me, and I don't know if I was a comic, I want to say the comic book, being a comic book fan helps, because the crazy characters and outlandish nature of 80s wrestling is kind of what drew me in. My brother was a huge influence. Obviously, he was watching it, and then he kind of, you know, grew out of it. And I just, being kind of loyal to a lot of my interests over the years, over the course of my life, I just stuck with it just because it brought me a lot of joy in there. I remember even as I grew into a teen and stuff too, a lot of times I would, you know, record the matches and stuff. I'd play pay-per-view back, or wrestling, I'd record some wrestling. I would just fall asleep watching to it. It was just the sound, the roar of the crowd. So as far as a specific match, just as far as a specific match,
not a match. Let's pick a person. Who do you remember was the first person where you said, I'm going to watch this religiously? I'm going to watch wrestling.
Again, I mean, having an older sibling watching it, we gravitated towards Hulk Hogan probably. I would say we seen him as Thunderlips on Rocky. That helped the crossover potential. And I think I just kind of remember that in the early 80s, which would have been the time when I would have got hooked, so to speak. It was starting to take off. It was the rock and wrestling. It was just mainstream. I think it drew attention. You could easily find it to watch. It is on Saturday mornings. So obviously you're free on a Saturday mornings to either watch cartoons, wrestling is on. If you turn on Wrestling Superstars is in syndication. And yeah, I would say mainly, you know, it's the rock and wrestling era, I think, is really kind of just, you know, everything was just great in the 80s. You grew up, you know, kind of in a very similar style as I did, where just everything in that block of time growing up, it was like the best time to grow up as a kid. And just in the toys, the cartoons, the sports, I mean, everything that kind of just was attractive to a young male, or, you know, female, depending on those fans' age. But I think just as a young,
because there wasn't
growing up in that age,
there wasn't a lot of female wrestlers.
Yeah.
That
There
didn't
was Wendy
start to
Richter.
like
There was Wendy Richter. There was no. I meant like I mean, obviously grandmas. They had the rap that they loved wrestling, but I mean, I'm sure there was young wrestling women fans, so you could see them in the crowd. But as far as like for a younger guy, younger kid, growing up in that time, much like yourself, we're very close in age. That yeah, I mean, the lure of it was just here are these characters, here are the presentation. I mean, I never really self-admittedly, I mean, I never really watched the NWA or what became WCW. Just and I talk about this too, even with a guy who was in the business and one of our loyal fans and stuff too, loyal listeners and appreciate it and very good friend. We're not in there to watch like guys, oiled up guys in underoos rolling around with each other. It's just not my thing. But the characters of it, the stories, the outlandish nature of the outfits. I mean, I grew up, I loved Owen Hart when he was the Blue Blazer first, when he came in there, because he could do all those flips, but he had the cape, he had the mask. As a comic book fan, that was appealing. I mean, if they had more of those during but those guys traditionally, he had some background in wrestling in Mexico and overseas too, besides coming up from Canada. That was more of the lucha style. Those guys traditionally weren't the greatest talkers or characters. They were just known for their masks. But I think just in general, I think the stories are what was always captivating. If there was no good stories, I mean, that's why you don't really see me watching UFCs. I mean, I just people beating the shit out of each other for real. That's not the appealing part to me. I want a good story. I mean, as a writer, as a creator myself, that's what I want to see. I mean, draw me in with a story, and that makes everything else better.
So you didn't answer the question of what wrestler can you
I mean,
recall? What would be the
so I would
Hulk
tell
Hogan?
you,
Hulk Hogan
I would
was
tell
your
you
first
he
one.
would be probably because he was plastered all over the place. I mean, sure there was Sergeant Slaughter too and a tie to GI Joe, but I mean in the early '80s, the guy who was yeah, I mean I kind of missed the part of Bruno and Backlund and stuff when I was watching and getting hooked in there. And my brother was a huge Hulk Hogan fan. That it just kind of followed suit for that. He was the poster boy for that. He was just taken off. Like I told you, the rock and wrestling era was spearheaded by Hogan. You had Captain Lou hanging around there. It was just the ambiance of it. But I mean, it had to be Hogan because who else was at the top of their? You had Hogan, Mr. Wonderful. They had that storyline going on. He turned on him. I couldn't remember that as an early storyline thing. Was he tries to get to the phone. He's working out, and Mr. Wonderful is on the line, and he gets there, and he's like, Mr. Wonderful had hung up. And he was like, and then the next time they got some tension. So one of the earliest storylines
Wonderful
was that storyline with Paul Orndorff that he turns on him and then he pile drives Hogan in the ring. Like, holy shit. That was one of the earliest storylines, besides Piper talking trash on Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou. I mean, that stuff was going on in the background. So it's kind of that whole rock and wrestling had to be because, MTV was taking off, all that stuff.
Do you think that wrestling took a change? Because I remember when I was backstage for a comedy gig with Mick Foley, and he asked me, because I'm a fan, so I'm totally like being a dipshit in the back, like, oh my God, I'm with Mick Foley, Mankind,
You said Mick was just kind of.
He was just
looking at you like
I was a dork. So
yeah. Who am I in this backstage?
Yeah, it's just kind of like when I met Bo Jackson, or you meet these guys, you're just like you're fucking, you're starstruck. And when you meet him in real life, even though I'm working with the guy, which is weird, it's unreal. So kind of like when I meet Dolph Ziggler at the comedy club, and he's super goddamn tiny, dude. He's fucking small, but he looks huge on like TV, but he's just, I guess compared to my body frame, he's small. And I'm just like, she's, just like shit, dude.
I'm like, good shit. See, who the hell are you? Fuck you. I can do this shit. I can do this shit. You come into my world, I'll come into yours.
I'm going to hit you with a microphone. So
we could draw money, dog. Come on. We could draw money.
Yeah, me and you.
Let me hit you with a chair.
I just run up there and just tackle you. So, but I
could do this shit. I promise.
It was.
I was
funny.
Logan Cage.
Dude,
How's Logan
it
Cage,
was
damn it?
funny shit though when I first saw him and I walked up and I was like, "Oh my god, hey dude." And he just looked like I was gonna attack him, like, who the fuck is this huge big dude who's just all like, "Oh my god, I love your shit," you know. So it's gotta be weird. It's gotta be weird. So because again, to the audience out there, I'm not a small dude. So I just think it's funny that when you see them. So like same thing with Mick Foley. I didn't realize that Mick Foley was so big. Like he's a big fucking dude, like tall.
He is a big dude, yeah.
He's big and tall.
I mean, you remember he had to be pretty big to be credible opponent for the Undertaker. So even though he had, and
it's not even
shaped, kind of what they said he was,
but it's not even that. He's tall and he's big. He's a big dude.
Like he's an intimidating presence for sure. As Cactus Jack, you didn't know if he was crazy or not.
Big body frame, and when you see him in the ring, he doesn't look that big. But when you see him in person, he's fucking big. Same with when I met Ultimate Warrior. Not as huge as you would think he would be.
50 years.
Because his legs are tiny compared to his upper body. But dude, he is an intimidating fucking dude. Like tall.
In his heyday, he was
tall and
ginormous.
Big. Tall and big.
He was one of the transition to continue on the question you asked me. I think if it just would have went Hogan into the 90s and fizzled out, he was one of the things that kind of bridged, because I became an Ultimate Warrior fan. Like there's this guy straight out of a comic book and it's just ginormous, but his intensity. And I was asked that early on when I was doing some training with wrestling and the guys and stuff. Oh, who was your favorite? Well, I was never ashamed to say that. I mean, granted, he's had a laundry list of different people bashing him or this. You can't tell me that from a mere presence and intensity standpoint, the Ultimate Warrior was the shit back in the days. He would come to the ring intense as hell. His interviews may not have made sense, but you could tell he was into whatever the hell he was saying. So it didn't matter if he was talking about spaceships and Destrucity and, pulling from whatever sources he was drawn from, kick the cockpit door down was one of his most popular ones, and grab it, Hulk Hogan, and all that type of stuff. But that's what drew me in, like the intensity. And that's what I was saying at the end of our, part one of this. You got to buy into whatever you're doing. So if the wrestler doesn't buy into it himself, you're not going to draw me in as a fan. You're not going to make believers out of the fans in there. You have to believe that this person believes the character they're portraying. If not, it's just like any actor that's doing this in a movie. If you're not making us believe that you're this character, you're gonna be taken out of the entire story. So you have to have these characters' intensity, believability. That's huge. It doesn't matter. You could do a million flips in the world and you could be like a hella great athlete. But if you can't make me believe that you believe you're that character, you've lost me already. Sean Mooney. Now I can't hear this, but I can picture him speaking.
Oh, I fucked up again. I didn't share it with all. Okay, I gotta do that. Dude, that's the best.
I probably could have ad-libbed it for the audience.
50 years of my bag and Hulk Hogan. 50 years, even 50
years in this business, and I'm out of disgrace.
I got a shit in a bucket. Whatever he said, you got a shit in a bucket.
And right now, this bald warrior
there it is.
Standing by with more.
One.
Yeah.
Don't define yourself in the full power. Do you have what it takes to be the most powerful force in the entire universe? Prepare yourself.
I will just say this: the fucking music alone is an adrenaline rush. Just the whole, just a drum beat.
Yeah, people forget. I mean, there's been a few interviews out there. You can find him on Jim Johnston. I think one Chris Van Vliet did, I think recently in the last couple of years. He was very instrumental in every single one of those things. Whether you have Jimmy Hart singing he produced a lot of those musics, but like Honky Tonk Man, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude's music, Mr. Perfect, everything, all those things. Demolition is one of the most memorable ones. Here comes the axe, and the way those guys wrestled was exactly like Warrior. They would just beat guys down intensity wise. And so when I dabbled in this, whatever you want to call it, all I could think of was my favorite things to watch was intensity and believability. So that's what I wanted to portray. So that's the best. I mean, if there's any wrestlers watching us or anybody who wants to do this ever, that's your key to it. You need to be intense. You need to be believable. Just that music, like you said, though, everything sets the tone.
And Nature Boy Ric Flair, for what you see across the back of this macho man, and across the face of this one, the Ultimate Warrior.
He just looks like he's been crying, like his makeup ran.
At this time, I'm wearing sunglasses.
What a weirdo.
I met him a couple times, or at least once. I think maybe it was just that once with when I asked him about being a referee. We don't train referees, kid. I always remember that. A couple times I just there was numerous times I inquired about being a referee. I was just like, I remember, I think it was Rip Rogers on the phone, like when I was in Chicago, calling him in Indiana. You don't want to be a referee, kid. Like, thanks. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, we don't train referee. I only take the money if guys want to be wrestlers.
All right.
But it was funny because my buddy asked him, "Do you think you could take Lawler?" And it was just that cracked him up. He started laughing. Yeah, I think so. As he signed the shit we had, and his wife chimed in. What do you think? That was so funny.
Here you go. Here's your moment that you keep bringing up to me when I talk about the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yeah, was training the kids.
Yeah, he's training these kids.
This is in Arizona,
I guess.
We're going to do squats this way. You put the bar on the back and you squat fucking down, feet flat, like you're shitting over a hole. Like this. Keep your back straight up and down. 20 fucking reps with the bar. Then I need somebody here just doing military press. Push up and down. You got two sets of dumbbells here. You just keep going. Devin, get on the prowler.
That kid's yawning.
On the prowler. If you're standing around, fucking get on it. You just got off the prowler, you get on the sled. Let's go. Fuck that, you can't. 52 fucking years I've been on this fucking planet. Fuck. 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 You know what I'm going to tell you? I want to go to the fucking big stadiums. 100,000 people. I fucking can't. Fuck that.
Pretty sure that wasn't legal.
Holy
He's just using a storage facility to train children in the fucking back. 52 years I've been training in this fucking lifetime. Storage facility has no clue what's going on.
You fucking put it on your back. 50 reps.
He's like trying to create like a carnival. At the same time, like you start doing military reps. You do that, and it's just fucking ridiculous.
You go over there and you just breathe heavy for the next 20 minutes. I'm getting lightheaded. Fuck you, you lightheaded. So,
pretty sure he shouldn't have been training people.
So I think about back when I watched wrestling. I actually watched NWA. Because I got cable. We talked about this. My dad stole cable, and we had Chicago, and we had different types of wrestling that we could watch. And so I watched it before WWF was a thing. I watched, and it was different because wrestling then was just like dudes in trunks, just wrestling. There wasn't a whole lot of gimmicks. Like there wasn't anything until WWF really kind of came to town. And then, like, you had the Ric Flair. You heard about the Ric Flair. You saw the series and all that stuff. But it wasn't like it got to WWF. Like, we didn't have a dude with a parrot, Coco Beware. We didn't have mine was Jimmy Snuka, doing the shit he was doing, jumping off the cage, doing that crap. We didn't have Roddy Piper and his kilt coming out and just being a badass with a leather jacket and a kilt. Then you had Hulk Hogan, of course, come onto the scene, but Andre Giant was already on the scene, and he was like the anomaly. Like, he was the big dude that everybody was like, what the fuck? This dude's the gigantic guy. And so it was all about just big dudes wrestling. And then they kind of, like you said, they had to find a way to make people watch it. And I think that's when you started realizing that it had a sale value in it, that once Hulk Hogan got a hold of that audience, and people bought into what the Warrior did too. People bought into, I don't give a shit about the wrestling. I just want to see this dude come out. I want to hear his music. I want to see his character. I want to see him get into the ring, even if it's for 4 minutes. I just want to see him do a shit. And I will stay on TV all the way to the end of the show. Like they said, remember how they bait you in? Oh, we got a big special match at the end of the night. And then you just kept looking at the clock, like, you know, this fucking is supposed to end at 8:00. And it's like, it's 7:55. And then the wrestling match would start and it would just end abruptly, like in 2 minutes. And they made you stay on to watch that fucking moment. But it's only because you wanted to see it. And then when I was in the 90s, Stone Cold Steve Austin just kind of carried that torch, right? He kind of carried that into, now we have the Attitude Era. And that's what me and Mick talked about that when I was backstage with him. He asked me, what part of wrestling was most influential to you when you were young? And I said, probably in the Attitude Era, because it became the edgy shit. It became about sex. It became about bad guys being just bullies and everybody accepts it. It became all that to where it drew in now an audience like myself in the 90s. I was in my teens, you know, I was in my teens to almost 20-year-olds. And I watched it probably even more than I watched it when I was younger, to where I was like, I wanted to see what the fuck's going to happen. So
you could have impressed them by saying, you know, when I watched WCW Saturday Night, that Cactus Jack fucker was just impressive.
I watched Cactus Jack.
Loved Cactus Jack
at ASU Gamage Auditorium. I watched Cactus Jack wrestle the Road Warriors, and this like overall brawl, or with like the whole ring brawl deal. What do they call those things? A Royal Rumble kind of deal. Everybody's fighting in the ring. I remember an old man threw a
battle
cane.
royal.
Old man threw a cane across the ring because he was pissed off at Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack did exactly that. You know, he came out, you know, that was his whole gimmick. Yeah. Everybody hated him. No one fucking liked him. He was a bad guy. And then and the Road Warriors too. The Road Warriors weren't your typical good guys.
They weren't the Legion of Doom, like that we knew from the like in the 90s when WWE signed them.
Yeah, they're Road Warriors, right? And they fucking came out and they just kicked the shit out of it. British Bulldog too. Everybody liked British Bulldog, and he was just a huge dude. And all he did was he did kind of that whole Heart Foundation wrestling, you know, Anvil and all those guys coming out. It was just, that's when it started. Probably late 80s, early 90s is when I started watching wrestling more intensely, because the characters changed. And all of a sudden there was like a huge storyline, to where when I was younger, it was like, hey, wrestling's on, you know, and you just watched it. You didn't really pick a person. You didn't really care who you watched. And then even when in the early 80s, when they had Jimmy Fly Snuka and all them, and they tried to make Saturday morning cartoons with those dumbasses, and try to make a Saturday morning cartoon with WWF superstars. And you're just like, nah, this is kind of lame.
I think that was actually called Rock and Wrestling. They called it that.
Yeah.
So.
But you think about
Hillbilly Jim, Andre was on there. Yeah.
Hillbilly Jim. And what was the other dude? The other dude with the white tights, the big, huge guy with the white tights.
Big John Studd.
Big John Studd.
Yeah, he was on there, wasn't he? Yeah, he was a part of a lot of the marketing. Yeah, they made a ton of money in marketing, but which told you obviously Vince had the better deal on all those things with his guys. But for them to still make the money they did really means they had to be raking in the money from toys and.
I mean, licensing and everything. Look at Ultimate Warrior. I'm just surprised in my whole day that Ultimate Warrior was around. He never got into a movie. He never made it in a movie, even as like a character. And that done lunch. I'm wrong. Was he ever in a movie with just his body frame or anything?
He might have been in one or two, just like in a background goon or something. But he was never the star of his own movie, to my knowledge. Not even a star, but no movie I've ever seen that he was a prominent role in.
He was never in any fighting movies or nothing. I mean, look at the size of the fucking dude.
Yeah, some would say he just burned a lot of bridges.
I mean, Andre the Giant was in a movie. Andre the Giant was in
Princess Bride. Princess Bride. Yeah, They Live. Probably the greatest wrestling movie with Roddy Piper's in there. You know, you hate everything that's good. They Live. What was the thing you were bashing last time? You're on
I hate everything that's good. They Live.
And then I'm trying to remember.
Dude, I'm looking it up right now. I'm gonna show everybody this fucking clip of They Live.
The greatest fucking movie.
It is not.
Yes, it is. It's up there. Greatest.
You want to know why? Because
related movie.
In 1988, you probably were still just a little kid. You didn't know any better.
It was just a great film. The fight scene in there was all
the fight.
He uncut the thing with Keith David. Yeah, it was John Carpenter.
So let me ask you,
that was good.
Roddy Piper in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or Roddy Piper in They Live?
Oh, I'm sorry, They Live.
Look at that Universal company.
There's the trailer. Yes.
Right away. I
don't think this trailer is probably going to fully do this justice.
This movie's stupid.
That's like
right away.
A very inconsequential. This is trying to
right away.
This isn't even This isn't even indicative, really. Of
this looks like a movie someone made with their iPhone.
This is not. Don't judge.
Look at that.
Don't judge it off this. Dude, you're picking the worst possible thing to show
whatever.
People. What do these things want, and why?
Okay. What is this? What do you mean? What do these things want? What kind of question is that? Is there a
question? Here?
He's trying to. The trailer's trying to make it like a horror movie, but it's not. It's like a science fiction thriller.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you.
You picked the worst. You picked the worst.
Dude, I think I picked the trailer. You picked the worst possible thing to hook somebody.
As long as they are not discovered.
Dude, this looks like a movie you made. Did you make this movie? Did you make this movie back in the 2000s?
I'd be make a ton of money off of its licensing.
They have us. Look at them.
Put on the damn sunglasses.
They are our owner. We have no other choice. I don't like this one.
Oh boy, there's your acting right there.
There's no way they could. They're not showing you the aliens. They're not showing you anything. They can't show you anything.
Well, let's just fast forward. Let's just fast forward the aliens. Oh, here it is. He has a gun.
Yeah, they're gonna show you the aliens. So they're trying
to look at him. Oh, did he say it's all out of bubble gum? Is that what he just said?
He might have. I think
I came to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
I don't think he could say kick ass in the trailer.
He did. Bubble gum. Dude, the explosions alone just make this cheesy as hell.
Yeah, but they can't really show you the whole hook of it, which is the alien.
All right, I'm done watching this.
That's not going to really. If you're basing a movie off of the trailer, obviously. How many movies have you seen that have had horrible trailer?
This one right
this
here.
One. You haven't even seen it. You're basing it off this trailer.
This one right here. I'm gonna look up
right here.
Oh.
Sean Carpenter. That's all you need to say is it's Sean Carpenter who's the. But it's not.
He's made.
They tried to make it like a horror. That they're trying to make the trailer like a horror film. It's not a horror film. They can't show you the aliens that are in there. It's in disguise. It's a very conspiracy-esque plot. It's great.
You could show us the ropes.
The Mauler.
Hey, Maniac! Mr. Maniac! Mr. Maniac, hold on. Maniac, excuse me.
Something I can do for you fellas.
Yeah, man. I said that was a great show. That was amazing, dude. That was so awesome, dude. You drank your own blood. When you were choking the guy.
Just try to pull on a good show.
Okay. I think he has the same acting chops he did in They Live. And that was probably like 30 years later.
That was like 40 years later.
One of these days I'll just have to watch it. We'll just have to have a movie review of They Live. I think
maybe you should watch it. It's a totally different film than that.
One day when I have nothing else better to do but watch a movie called They Live with Roddy Piper.
Great film.
And then right after that, I'll watch the Hulk Hogan movie.
You were just saying 2 episodes ago or whatever this airs. I hated X-Men. Fucking X-Men. X-Men's a part of everybody's childhood in the 90s, and they really.
I just saw a trailer for that.
Two awesome episodes that returned now to give that a plug, and you're like bashing it 2 episodes. And I'm like, what do you like?
I just saw that. Well, obviously, I like better movies than those. So,
Oh,
just
hell
because,
no.
yeah, you probably like Gremlins 1, 2, and 3.
I don't remember Gremlins. I remember watching Gremlins as a child.
Okay, let's ask this: what movie was most influential to you when you were a young person?
As a young person,
Yep.
the movie probably I didn't see it when I was a kid. Like I remember one of the first horror movies was Exorcist. I'd say as far as one of the early films, yeah, I remember Star Wars as a kid. I mean, who else wouldn't? I would have been around my target
Do you think
kind
that?
of
Do you think
audience.
that changed? That was 70s. Do you think that changed your life? Star Wars.
To be honest with you, I don't remember seeing Star Wars 1 in the theater. I remember seeing Return of the Jedi twice in the theater.
What about horror movies? What horror movie was most influential to you as a young kid? Other
This
than
feels
Exorcist?
like a whole new episode.
What?
To
Just
start.
yeah. We only got like 10 minutes
Yeah.
left. So what's the horror movie? Okay, let's go back to wrestling. Let's go back to wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Go
a
back
whole
to
new
wrestling.
episode.
Okay,
yeah,
wrestling.
We'll be talking for a while on
Wrestling.
those.
So we talked about influential characters. So when did you decide to be a wrestling promoter? What changed? What made you want to do something that you knew exactly was not going to cost you money and not make you money? What made you decide to do that?
I think WrestleMania 17 was the inspiration thing because I think when you're in the grind of this life, when you're just work, sleeping, and eating in no particular order, or barely sleeping, yeah, you start to rethink, and it's just something I always loved to do in the late, in the mid 90s, I think, not late. I just dabbled in it with friends of CM Punk that we kind of knew. And I think we explained this a little bit on our dark side of promoting, light side. Well,
we have new subscribers, so yeah, we got to.
So I would highly refresh and say go back and listen to that. But I would say, yeah, watching WrestleMania 17 and then thinking about the little dabbling I did in the Chicago area while living in Arizona, I think I just thought, well, what's stopping me from doing this? Money? Well, yeah. So
yeah, kind of. You got to buy a ring.
I'm not saying it was, yeah,
gotta have space.
A good, yeah, and I got screwed over on, multiple times in the ring too. As far as one guy stopped building it, did, return the money at least. The other one just screwed me out of it, got into legal trouble, and yeah, when he spent like 5 months in jail, I think the guy did for screwing, documented over 70,000. Who knows how much he really did over people? So that just goes to show you with shit like that,
What?
Yeah,
he went to jail.
This guy got to jail. Yeah, went to Better Business Bureau, and then where he was living, I think, at the time, and we did get him to jail, but I mean, 5 months slap.
Dark Side of the Ring with MC.
5 slap on the wrist, 5 months in prison near his parents' home. That tells you the justice system's a joke when this guy screws people. You couldn't make $70,000 in 5 months doing anything that's, with this guy's education level or what the hell he was doing. So yeah, it was a joke. I mean, we got a couple checks and then they just stopped coming because the guy's working under the table somewhere, so yeah. But to go back to it, just I think the inspiration was just what would make somebody do it. It's just the love of it, really, the passion for it, and not a bright decision. I mean, to go back and listen to that episode I plugged, obviously that would be the one to listen to. But when you love something, you'll pursue your dreams. I would not discourage anybody from doing it, but you might want to be a little bit smarter in your pursuit of it than I probably was. But I didn't let something stop me. So I mean, determination is huge, but I think in the end, you really got to make wise choices what you're doing, because otherwise you might take a while to get out of that hole, if at all. So you definitely got to make, what it did in my case, you definitely got to make smart decisions like, hey, how do I do this? How can I maximize the most money? It's just not a huge money-making endeavor. It's hard to do that. Yeah. Dark Side of the Ring, Hulk Hogan. Dark Side of the Ring, promoting, starring.
We got into
JC.
We got into
MC.
with you. Dark Side of the Ring with MC. 5 months in prison. 5 months in prison? What did
The guy
he do?
spent 5 months in prison,
did not.
over 70 grand, screwing
didn't-
people out of wrestling rings.
He did not put turnbuckles on the ring. What? He failed to put canvas on the mat. What?
Wrestling ring. Never buy a ring from WrestlingRingsForSale.com.
Never go on eBay to purchase your wrestling ring.
eBay was the one that delivered because they actually backed up and forced the people to deliver it. So yeah, and shout out to eBay for at least
force them. You deliver this fucking ring.
Yeah, I mean that's where it went to. At least the guy, in from Ohio, they had a ring and there was already built and everything. They welded it themselves. Yeah, that was the one heavy duty ring. You were in it yourself. It would last a few years till it was sold and neglected, sadly, by its new owners, and should have lasted longer. But
think about the life you lived, MC, and that's pretty cool that you took chances like that. But you won't
sometimes
you won't buy proper audio equipment and video equipment for this podcast.
But a lot of money over the course. You will lost a lot of money over the course of my life.
Buy a ring
promoting wrestling.
You will buy a ring and have it shipped to your house and just say, hope it gets here from Guam. So, well, very interesting episode. I'm glad I got to pull some out of you. Some people that may be your friends that listen to this may be interested in your background, MC, and why you're interested.
Yeah, we could do we've teased that a couple times. Some other couple good dudes that have reached out to me wanting to get the scoop on. We did an SWWF special too. If you look in our archives too, that was the name of the promotion where we both met and what I was promoting back then. So yeah, it's a fun episode to look back. And as we reach milestones, anniversaries, you never know. Go back in time and revisit some of that.
Maybe you'll be discussing with me on the dark side of comedy. And then you'll be having these conversations with myself. And why the fuck do I get in promoting comedy shows?
That's a good question.
Because everybody always asks me, like, what's it like? Are you making a lot of money? I make fucking $0. In fact, it costs me money to make anything in comedy as a promoter. But in turn, I just got booked for another weekend at a casino. So that's the dark side, but the positive side of comedy. Unfortunately, the dark side of wrestling is you're just the dude setting up a ring for people to wrestle in, and none of those fuckers have money either, and neither one of them are paying you back with anything. So nobody makes it big and says, hey, thanks a lot, MC, for giving me those opportunities. Never. So
rarely heard a lot of thanks over the course of the time. There's just a lot of takers and not as much, but there were a few good ones. We still talk with and stuff too. I will never forget one of the guys, our good buddy Seth, going up to not just me, but my family too, because knowing how much they supported and just, they were just there being present and just showing support for their loved one there. He went up and just thanked them too. And knowing obviously I wouldn't have got there. So we're doing that without them. So I do appreciate that. I will never forget that. And then there was a few. There was a couple people that still years later came back, and one of them came to the door, and just, yeah. So those people they got a special place in my heart. They're people, it doesn't matter if it's that many years, and maybe some would have tried it after I was gone. Who knows? But I do know that the opportunity didn't come without a price. And I mean, obviously I could be in a lot better situation I am now. Could be a lot worse situation, but just like you said, it's for the love of it. Just like you're doing comedy, it's for the love of the game, the love of your passion of what you enjoy doing. And if you didn't enjoy doing it, you wouldn't lose money doing it, certainly. And we did it as long as we could. That's all I could say in that sense.
I definitely have to put sappy music during that speech right there. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Hold on.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have had those children. So
I wouldn't have met my wife in wrestling if it wasn't for you.
We wouldn't have not had Ramrock ditch us on this interview.
I hope the guy's doing good. We missed this guy. We were hoping to get him on
Mr. Busy Pants. Fucking,
Maybe the WrestleMania. We're
even,
running out of time for the WrestleMania preview episode.
I even cut up his little promo video to do like a little intro, and then
I know I posted it online. Everything. People were looking forward to.
He posted it online.
Did he? No,
So,
I mean,
no.
the one you sent it to me to promote him coming on.
Reposted it.
Yeah.
He reposted it.
Did he?
I feel like we should fucking just call him right now and just get his ass trapped on the phone.
I would love to do that, but I think his wife is coming first in this situation. So that's the illusion I got.
The dark side of marriage. So, all right. Well, we got to hear about your influential moments. We got to hear about the worst gimmicks ever. And we got to just tailor off a little bit on the promotion side. The dark side of the ring is out.